Today I'll be delivering a brutally honest MMORPG tier list for 2025. Before we dive in, let me remind you, liking or disliking a game is entirely subjective. You can absolutely disagree with me, and that's okay. This list reflects both my personal opinion and the overall sentiment of the gaming community. If your main game ends up in a lower tier, try to understand that it's not entirely my fault. With that out of the way, let's get started with the best MMORPG tier list of 2025. We will start with Classic WoW, which I'm putting into a A tier. Why? Because it continues to offer an unparalleled nostalgic experience while retaining a challenging, community-driven atmosphere. However, it's not an S tier due to outdated mechanics that sometimes feel like a chore in 2025. Next up is Aeon, which lands in C tier. While it had groundbreaking aerial combat back in the day, the game feels like it's stuck in the past. Its grindy progression system and outdated visuals keep it from climbing higher. Albion Online gets a B tier from me. Its sandbox gameplay and player-driven economy are fantastic, but the steep learning curve and repeated activities might drive away new players. ArcAge also finds itself in C tier, despite having a unique housing and naval combat system. Its pay-to-win reputation and inconsistent updates hold it back. For Asheron's Call, I'm placing it in C tier. While it was a trailblazer in its time, the lack of modern quality of life features and its dated graphics make it hard to recommend to anyone but hardcore fans. Blade and Soul also goes into C tier. The combat is still flashy and fun, but the game suffers from stale content and optimization issues that make it difficult to enjoy in the long run. Dark Age of Camelot lands in C tier. While its Realm vs Realm PvP was revolutionary, the game feels like a relic of the past with clunky mechanics and minimal updates. Now for our first S tier, Final Fantasy XIV. It's a masterpiece of storytelling, features an incredibly welcoming community, and offers polished gameplay that just keeps improving with each expansion. Elder Scrolls Online is going into A tier. Its immersive world building and lore are unmatched, but occasional bugs and its reliance on repetitive grinding hold it back from S tier. Next is Guild Wars 2, and it absolutely deserves an S tier. With its dynamic events, horizontal progression, and stunning visuals, it continues to set the standard for modern MMORPGs. Black Desert Online earns an A tier spot. Its graphics and combat are top-notch, but the grindy nature and overwhelming systems keep it from reaching S tier. Lost Ark also goes into A tier. It delivers an excellent blend of action combat and engaging PvE content, but its endgame progression can feel overly punishing. Brighter Shores is a solid B tier. It's a newer title with a lot of potential, but it's still rough around the edges and lacks the polish of higher tier games. Retail WoW retains its S tier status thanks to its sheer volume of content and consistent updates, even though its design choices can be polarizing. Lord of the Rings Online goes into B tier. Its immersive Middle-earth setting is amazing, but its dated combat system keeps it from going higher. Star Wars The Old Republic earns an A tier placement. Its storytelling and voice acting are exceptional, and the cinematic feel of its questing experience is unmatched. However, the game's heavy reliance on its subscription model and lack of major updates prevent it from achieving S tier. New World Eternum lands in B tier. While it boasts beautiful visuals and engaging territory wars, the repetitive late-game content and frequent balancing issues keep it from rising higher. Old school RuneScape deserves S tier without any questions. Its player-driven economy, nostalgic charm, and regular updates guided by community input make it a standout MMORPG even in 2025. Star Trek Online goes into B tier. Its story-driven missions and space combat are fantastic for Trekkies, but the dated visuals and clunky ground combat hold it back. Wizard 101 earned its B tier spot thanks to its unique combat system and family-friendly design. However, its aging engine and reliance on microtransactions keep it from achieving higher tiers. Dungeons & Dragons Online lands in C tier. While it does a great job capturing the spirit of tabletop D&D, its outdated visuals and limited player base makes it hard to recommend. EVE Online is placed in C tier. It offers a unique player-driven universe, but its steep learning curve and time-consuming gameplay aren't for everyone. EverQuest finds itself in C tier. This pioneer of MMORPG has a legendary legacy, but its mechanics and visuals haven't aged well. Guild Wars 1 finds itself in B tier. While it revolutionized MMORPGs, With its unique instance design and deep building crafting, it lacks the modern quality of life features and active player base to compete in 2025. Mortal Online lands in C tier. It has ambitious sandbox mechanics and a hardcore PvP focus, but frequent bugs, a steep learning curve, and limited accessibility holds it back. Lineage 2 earns a C tier spot. Its massive battles and nostalgia factors are great, but outdated systems and its reliance on grinding prevent it from climbing higher. Rift also falls into C tier. It had a strong start with its innovative Rift system and class flexibility, but the game has stagnated over the years with minimal updates and declining player numbers. Neverwinter is placed in C tier. The action combat and Dungeons and Dragons theme are appealing, but aggressive monetization and repetitive endgame content holds it back. RuneScape 3 finds itself in B tier. While it has improved visuals and quality of life features compared to its predecessor, its microtransactions and lack of nostalgic charm of old-school RuneScape hinder its ranking. Terra goes into C tier. The combat system is still enjoyable, but the game's content, stagnation, and closure of many servers reflect its declined popularity. Warhammer Online lands in C tier. While its Realm vs. Realm PvP was a standout feature, the game's eventual shutdown and limited private server support make it more of a nostalgic footnote than a viable MMORPG today. Blast Unleashed goes straight into F tier. The game's poor optimization, pay-to-win elements, and lack of meaningful updates make it one of the most disappointing MMORPGs in recent memory. MapleStory earns an A tier spot. Its charming art style, engaging progression, and frequent updates keep it relevant even in 2025. However, its reliance on microtransactions prevents it from reaching S tier. Alien lands in F tier. Despite initial promises, the game suffers from a lack of unique identity, uninspired combat, and dwindling player support. Skyforge is also placed in F tier. While it introduced an interesting class-switching mechanic, the shallow content, grindy progression, and lack of updates leave much to be desired. Throne and Liberty secures a B tier ranking. It's a newer MMORPG with a strong foundation and a beautiful visuals, but it still needs more content and polish to reach higher tiers. Ragnarok Online finds itself in C tier. Its nostalgic charm and unique art style keep it memorable, but its aging mechanics and limited updates make it hard to recommend to new players. Last but not least, Metin 2 also lands in C tier. While it has a loyal fan base, the repetitive gameplay, outdated visuals, and lack of innovation hold it back in 2025. And that wraps up my brutally honest MMORPG tier list for 2025. Remember, this list is just my take and your opinions might differ, which is totally fine. Let me know in the comments which games you agree or disagree with and why. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon for more MMORPG content. Thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next one. Till then, goodbye.